Hey, hey, Michelle.
Okay. Yes, Peter.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm finding you.
Excellent, excellent. How's everything going?
Good, good. No complaints.
Excellent. And how are you and Anika and the rest of your family doing?
No, Anika's fine. She's at school today, so this is actually the perfect time for me.
Okay, excellent.
So
Nice, nice. So it's been a while. It's we've communicated through Facebook, but it's been over a decade since we talked with each other.
yes, I mean like in person that was in Cape Town, South Africa.
Yeah,
Like yeah.
many years ago, back in the day.
Exactly.
So lots of things have happened since then.
I know. I mean like you don't even look the same anymore.
I'm a little bit bigger and a little bit hairier. But
Yes, yes.
yeah. I mean, we can catch up on a lot. But there's a purpose for this call. So I know that you have things to do, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to be mindful of that. But just to give you some an update about what I've been doing. So I graduated from law school, and I don't practice law. I kind of follow a spiritual journey, and I start doing interfaith work and building peace and understanding, cooperation between different religious and ethnic communities. And so I also do outreach for mixed people, for people of mixed ethnicity. Um,
Okay.
and so this project is kind of blending those two different fronts of building bridges. And so I'm just talking with a number of friends who are mixed and have a mixed heritage about each one's experience. And so I think you, being from South Africa, being from Cape Town, have a very interesting and valuable experience and perspective and insight to share. I'm interested in hearing that and sharing that with others. The idea for this project is to help others have courage to kind of talk about this subject, and particularly for other young mixed people to kind of hear about other people's stories and be able to identify with others, and feel part of a collective, a community, and feel strengthened to be just an individual and follow individuals' pursuits. So you share a little bit of your message before about determination and opportunities, and following your path in life, and so I think that's valuable to share with the people who see this interview.
Hmm.
Does that sound okay?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So I have five questions, and I basically tell you the gist of the questions before. So I've learned to just basically stick with the questions. And if I may pose some follow up questions. If you just want to go on to the next question, that's fine. We can just move ahead and continue on. So does that sound all right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So do you have any questions or anything you want to say off the bat?
No, I wanted to know the picture that you see of me, is it my portfolio picture on Facebook, or my you see
Yes.
my actual face?
I see your portfolio picture.
Oh, because I put on the camera, so I don't know why you cannot see my face.
Okay, okay. Well, I can see your face. It's just not moving. But it's a nice photograph. What is your husband's name?
His name is Eric, and this picture was taken in Cape Town, South Africa.
Right, I can see Table Mountain in the background.
Uh, uh-huh.
It's nice. Cool. So I'm uncertain how. I mean, my technical capabilities are very modest, so I'm uncertain what the how to remedy the camera situation. But whatever works with you is cool.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. So can you see me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not that that's any much of a benefit, but anyway. So uh, let's go on to the questions. Ready?
Yes.
All right. So the first question is, what is the ethnic and spiritual background of your parents?
My mom, she's Roman Catholic basically,
Okay.
and my mom, she is what you call a Cape Colored.
All right.
And like I told you before, I don't know anything about my dad.
Sure. Sure.
I haven't met him, never
Okay.
made any contact. So I don't know if it's a myth, if it does exist, but my mom, my mom raised me as a single mom, so I've
Sure.
never had any father.
Sure. So, in the United States, race is very charged, and there's a lot of there's polarity, historic like differences between ethnic communities, and so it's been kind of like there've been finite boxes, and particularly between people of African descent and people of European descent, it's been either one or the other, and there's been actually laws that stipulate that if a person has the phrase goes one drop of African blood, the person is considered of African descent. And it's been kind of to try to, again, maintain the differences. And so recently, within the past few decades, there's been a lot of progress to kind of build reconciliation, and there's been this mixed movement to strengthen individuals to identify as mixed or belonging to both communities or multiple communities. But in South Africa, you have this category of being colored. So
Yes,
so you
yes.
have can you talk a little bit about what that experience is like? I mean, I know there are difficulties in apartheid South Africa, but perhaps you can talk about a little bit about what the experience like is being colored and how it differentiates from what you experience in the United States.
Okay, I mean, basically, colored is with the apartheid system, that they actually introduced that law in 1968, and that was a man-made law, by
Okay.
the South African.
Sure.
So it was under the Group Areas Act. And basically, there are 4 groups in South Africa, and I think the first group is like whites, and then you get Indians,
Mm.
and then the colored, which is a mixture of any race basically,
Yes.
and then your 4th group would be the blacks. So because my skin tone is too light to be black and it's too dark to be white, so therefore I am considered Cape Colored,
Okay.
and we still use that term up until today. And basically what's happening in South Africa right now, there's been some race issues within the past few days, starting from the day after Christmas. The beaches were crowded with black South Africans, and there is a fight going on between black South Africans and white South Africans. And
Okay.
the coloreds are just keeping it all neutral. It's like the colored people are not getting involved because they are thinking that the fight is not between them. So I mean, like for me, growing up as a child in South Africa, being colored, there was some how can I say, not opportunities, but it was better being colored than
Mm.
being black, because colored people were treated a little bit better.
Okay.
And I mean, we were not treated like the black people would, white people were treated, but somehow we were treated a little bit better than black people.
Mm.
With that being said, there was still a lot of segregation going on. I mean, for me as a child, I remember traveling in the train. There was a special area where colored people were allowed to sit, and then there was an area where black people could sit too.
Mm.
And when we would arrive at the train station, like basically colored and black people, they get out one side of the station, and then the white people, they get out on a different side of the station. And I mean, their side was much nicer than the black and colored side of the station. And even with on the beaches too, it's like, I remember even going into town with my mom, there was a lot of places where we were not allowed to go because of our skin color.
Mm. Wow.
So we experienced, I know that in America, you guys had the Jim Crow laws, and that was like
Sure.
way back, like 50s or something, but
Sure.
I've experienced apartheid up until Nelson Mandela was released from prison.
Yeah. Wow. So
Yes.
that's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. So, so given your experience in South Africa in Cape Town, what are some of the observations that you make or that you have about race relations in the United States? How do you compare those experiences?
I mean, I've been here in the United States now since 2008,
Okay.
and I can see like here in the United States, I am considered black, but somehow I'm considered light skinned.
Sure.
And and in just I took race and race relations at the a subject at the University of at Wayne State,
Okay.
and I could see that I mean, and I've heard from fellow Americans that basically if you are like light skinned black, you
Yeah.
can get a better opportunity than being dark skinned.
Okay.
And I think I've experienced that too, because in like some places where I go, darker people, they look at me differently, so maybe they're confused.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, but I mean, that is just my observation and what I've heard, the difference between light skin and dark skin.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there are very strong similarities between the experiences. Where there may be an absence of, like, in the United States, there may be an absence of a specifically legal category for light skinned black people, but there is still that, like, preferential treatment. A lot of people talk about the privilege of light skin, and then the whole politics between dark skin and light skin people of African descent in the United States. I mean, there's that history. Back in the times of slavery, there was the experience when the slave master or the overseer would basically rape the slave woman and have a biracial child. Those children were often given preferential treatment and given the slave assignments of living in the big house and having the cushy slave jobs, and
I've heard that. Yeah.
and being
I've heard.
favored compared to the ones who work in the field. And so then there's that animosity between the two groups because of that preferential treatment. And so then that animosity is utilized to continue to keep both those groups down. And so it's interesting just to see how, like, all the troubles that exist. But amidst that, there's also bridge building, and there are efforts that are made to connect people amongst the different groups. And so I'd like to think that we're improving in some manner, although we have a long way to go. But anyways, that's me talking. And I'm getting off topic. So, but I appreciate you sharing that. And so that's interesting. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit further. But for the moment, how about we go on to question 2?
Okay.
All right. So question 2 is, what does your mother teach you growing up? What are some of the like the life lessons that your mother shares with you when you're growing up?
I mean, basically, my mother, she never completed high school. I mean, she was a young mother, and her main, she always wanted, my sister and I to not only to finish high school but get a college degree, because she never had it. And I remember from a young age that she made sure that education is important, because education and a good job is your way out of poverty.
Sure.
And mother, she never had a car. She worked 2 jobs, but she made sure every single day that she would check over our homework. And every week, once a week, we would go to the library, and we would walk to the library 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back. And she said, I remember my mother clearly saying that, yes, the teacher's job is there to teach you, but it is also the parent's job to make sure that you are doing everything to your ability to get the good grades.
Uh-huh.
And a main emphasis, was education, 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 and that I'm basically continuing that with my daughter right now.
Excellent, excellent, very nice. So, I remember from our experience in Cape Town many years ago, one of the first things that I kind of observe about you is your determination, and you're very strong-willed, it seems like you get that a lot of that from your mother, because it sounds like she's very strong and persevering and being resilient. It sounds like she passes that on to you.
Oh yes, I remember growing up, my mom, she had to play mother and father, and we grew up, in a poor colored community, like the Athlone area.
Uh-huh.
So she didn't have a choice, to be very tough, and she taught us from a young age that you have to be street smart too.
Yeah.
So you have to be strong. And I remember taking public transportation with her, always watching out for her. And she's just a strong female. And I think we got that from her, my sister, and I, So she's very courageous. And her faith has always been very important to her too, So she really taught us like good morals, and just good manners, just to be a good person in general.
Sure.
And please do the right thing. I've never been exposed to any drugs or any alcohol, because my mother set an example to us as young females, that you have to take care of yourself, because if you don't, somebody is going to abuse you, or, there's just a lot of things happening out there. So she made sure that we get the best education and that we grow up to be ladies.
Sure. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. So you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you experience, having maybe less material riches to work with, and so education being important. So continuing on to question 3, what are some of the challenges that you experience as a youth? Either as you talk about dealing with having less to work with, or also being colored, the relationships that you have with other people, dealing with apartheid, discrimination. What are some of the challenges that you experience growing up and as a youth, as you kind of enter into the life and as a young adult?
Hi, Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a phone call.
Okay.
Yes. I remember back as a child, actually in high school, I really wanted to take up math in high school, but there was no teacher available because of the apartheid system. There was shortage of school teachers.
Okay.
So basically, I was forced to do German. And I think that just broke my spirit, because I really wanted to learn math. But, and that was like my first disappointment. And then secondly, when I finished high school, I wanted to I wanted to become a teacher. And there was still in the apartheid era, I couldn't get into the teachers training college, but I've always kept my hope. And then I just said to myself, when I finished high school, I'm going to do something else. I started working in a clothing store, and I saved my money because my dream was to travel. Okay. So I basically came to the United States for the first time in 1997 as a nanny. And then my story started from there. I worked for a very wealthy family. So they actually sponsored me when I returned back to South Africa. Okay. They sponsored me. They paid for my 4-year education in Cape Town. Wow. So that was actually a break for me after, the disappointment I had, in high school and when I finished high school.
Yeah. Wow. So that's interesting because as you're talking, a lot of a, lo- often when I talk with mixed people and when I listen to mixed people talk about some of the difficulties growing up being mixed, a lot of it deals with like existential issues like belonging and identity and fitting in with different groups. And so a lot of it is kind of like psychological or social difficulties. But and maybe this might be just because the context. A lot of the people are kind of like in the middle class, so there are fewer discussions about like the economic impacts of being mixed and how that plays in. But you're describing an experience where there are specific limitations based on law, based upon society regarding ethnic background, and so that's interesting to kind of to hear because that's kind of like an implication in the mixed experience, at least within the U.S. But there's an absence of any explicit law that says you can't do this or that you only have this amount because of a certain ethnicity. But it's kind of intrinsic and it's very subtle, and it's kind of obscure. It's difficult to like point a finger at, but it's still there. But for you to talk about that explicitly being the case in South Africa, it kind of like it kind of connects the dots a little bit. So
Yes, because I mean, like from my experience, I mean, I didn't really have a problem fitting in like socially because growing up in a colored community,
yeah,
I've always been surrounded by people of my own skin color. So
sure.
basically, we were fighting the same battle. So in that regard, like fitting in society, I didn't have a problem because we were all, it's like we were hardly exposed to white people.
Okay, right.
Mainly, mainly because we weren't allowed in those white areas.
Okay,
And so I've everything that I've my whole growing up, I've just been having my interaction with people of my own race
sure.
because of the Group Areas Act. We were only allowed to go to certain areas, so I've never really seen. I mean, like if you see white people, you see them on television. But other than that, the problems like I had growing up as a youngster was trying to achieve my goals, by taking up the math, and going to the teachers training college.
Yeah.
And uh,
Well, when you mention that, I think that might blow a lot of people's minds in the U.S. The fact that, like particularly in Cape Town, where there's a large colored population, that
yes,
you have communities of just colored people,
exactly,
and you can go through life just interacting with colored people. So
exactly,
I think in the United States, particularly here in the Midwest, where it's comparatively people of European descent with some people of African descent and some other ethnicities as well. To hear that is kind of mind blowing. The fact that you can actually have communities of people just being mixed or being colored,
really,
and live life just socializing with people of that have that same experience.
yes,
So I think that's. I mean, obviously there are challenges with that, but for people like myself who grow up and are always trying to fit in one group or another and talked about and accused of not being black enough or not being white enough or trying to sell out or being too ghetto or whatever else, and always trying to find our niche, find our place in society, and a lot of people still having that experience. To hear about entire communities sharing just that being the norm is I
it's
think it's mind blowing.
yeah.
Cool. So with that being said, we can go into question 4, which is what are some of the solutions that you find in life as an adult, as you mature, as you kind of get into your own as a woman? What are some of the solutions that you find to answer those challenges that you experience?
I mean, like for me, solutions basically is just be strong, never give up. Because I mean, I really grew up in a very poor community, and I've been to South Africa last year in September,
Okay.
and I went to my own community where I grew up, and like people, they are still stuck, just doing the same. And if I would have been back in South Africa, I think I could have become a mentor to those
Mm.
young people, tell them, like, I did it, my sister did it, you guys can also do it.
Uh-huh.
And I think for me is why I am in a situation where I am right now is because of my mother, who has been a strong woman, a woman of faith. And I think sometimes you need that person that believes in you,
Sure.
because I believe that sometimes, your environment can either make you or it can break you. And my environment made me a better person for me just to leave, that poor community and coming here to the United States and making a better life, not only for myself, for my daughter.
Sure.
And then my sister, because I always had to be an example to her. I was taught from a very young age to set an example to your sister and
Mm.
to your brother. So I would say to young people out there, just try to I don't know. I mean, like they say education really,
Yeah.
and I mean, even if you grow up in a poor community, I think Americans have more opportunities in terms of there's a lot of libraries. There's more programs in the United States than in South Africa.
Mm.
So I mean, I think that young people here, they have more opportunities than we had growing up in like for me growing up in apartheid South Africa. So go out there and just education.
Sure. Yeah. Education is very valuable, and you emphasize the fact of being resilient and determined. And so I wonder, as you're talking, I'm thinking it's beneficial. The advice to others of being strong and resilient is beneficial, and it's increasingly beneficial to be the example of that and say, I've come from this and I'm here, and so here's an example of that resiliency and strength. But I wonder, it's one thing to say, it's another thing to do it, as an individual who receives that recommendation. But I wonder whether there were if there were many successes along your way that kind of strengthen your resiliency and your strength, affirm that and kind of encourage you to keep on going. Because I mean, it's like if you go from A to Z, that's a big step. But what about B, C, D, and E along the way? Were there small successes that you're able to
Oh
say,
yeah,
yes, that's true.
yeah.
This is working. I'm on the right path.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, I remember growing up in South Africa, not having a dad,
Mm-hmm.
and I basically started. I casualed. I had a part-time job, and I became friends with this beautiful young person, and her father was a police officer. And I remember he would always give us advice. And I mean, like when I started going nightclubbing in South Africa, within my colored community,
Uh-huh.
he would tell us, it's like, don't drink, because guys are going to be out and use you. So, I mean, even for me growing up in a single parent household, I
Uh-huh.
always had some people that was looking out for me, like the police officer, I
Mm.
remember, and then also going to church,
Yeah.
the Sunday school teacher. So they say it takes a village of people to help you.
Yeah.
And besides my mom being there for us, we also had other people looking out for us. But besides that, I was very determined not to be like my mother.
Mm.
It's like, it's either I can become like her or I can break away from that barrier. So
Sure.
I chose a young person that I am not gonna have, unwed children, and I'm not gonna end up working in a factory because it's so easy. Most of the young girls in my street, they ended up working in a factory and having a child by 14 or 15 years old, and
No,
I didn't see that lifestyle for myself.
I hear you.
So that was all my personal choice to be a better person, because if I wanted to, Peter, I could have ended up like many of the girls in my street,
Yeah.
having because most of them, some of them, it's not only in the United States, you know, with this teenage pregnancy. We have a problem in South Africa too. And
Sure.
a lot of young girls, because they have no direction, by the time they are like 19, 20, they already have like 3 kids or 2 children from 2 different guys, you know. So um, I I think it's personal choice too. And I think I have to be strong. I mean, it depends, but not everybody is strong. And I can just say for me, it was my personal choice and also of the influences I had in church and people looking out for me and for my sister.
Nice. Well, I very much appreciate what you say about it takes a village. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you have, amidst your challenges, I'm glad that you have people in your life that are able to point you in a positive direction and help to keep you focused and give you guidance along your way. And so I appreciate that. And I think that's critical. And I think, I mean, that's kind of what this project is about, trying to be that helpful. I think the village itself in today looks a little bit different. A lot of it is online, and a
I
lot
know.
a lot of it is connecting with people in many different locations. And so the nature of the village is, I think, a little bit different today than it is 20, 30 years ago, 100 years ago, and additionally. So I very much appreciate that principle. And so thank you for sharing that. So that leads us into the fifth and final question, which is, what message do you have to share with the universe, given all your experience, the challenges, the successes, the resiliency? What is your message that you have to share with the universe?
I mean, for me personally, you know, I would just thank the universe for, you
Wow.
know, giving, allowing me, you know, to live this American dream, because I know a lot of people out there, especially in South Africa, they wanna, you know, they wanna leave the situation, you know, and it's not easy for everybody to get out of the situation that they are in. My sister and I, we're trying to get my brother over here. So I pray every day that maybe he will change his lifestyle, and asking the universe, you know, to guide him, you know, to give him that strength.
Mm.
So my message to the universe today is, never give up hope, you know, believe in yourself. And I know it's sometimes, you know, it's not as easier said as done, but um, just be grateful for everything that you have, and opportunities will come, you know, just be positive, you know, just be mindful. And I don't know, it's just like I just spread love.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Peter.